Why is it that only certain regions of the world developed civilizations, formed states, and continue to thrive today? The answer is straightforward. Rivers. The vast majority of Egypt's territory is arid land, an environment where human survival is nearly impossible. And yet, Egypt functions as a nation of over 100 million people. Why? Because of the Nile. Why is that so decisive? This slide explains everything. Consider the four great ancient civilizations. Mesopotamia emerged between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. The Indus Valley civilization arose along the banks of the Indus River. Chinese civilization developed along the Yellow River. Egyptian civilization was born from the gifts of the Nile. This is no coincidence. Rivers provide three things: water, fertile alluvial soil, and transportation corridors. When all three converge, agricultural surplus emerges, cities form, and states are born. Climate, technology, and trade networks also accelerated civilization's rise, of course. But at the center of it all, there was always a river. This is a fact confirmed by 5,000 years of civilizational history. This is not speculation. It is a data-driven, established analysis, and it is entirely comprehensible. Look at the map. Follow the population data. From this, you can understand the relationship between states and rivers. Today, I'll show you that data. Look at the map of Egypt. The vast majority of the country is a landscape of dry sand and rock. An environment where agriculture and cities cannot take hold stretches on endlessly. And yet, this nation holds a population of over 100 million. Where do they live? In the narrow, confined strip of the Nile Valley and Delta. Under the 1959 Nile Waters Agreement, Egypt holds the rights to 55.5 billion cubic meters of water annually. This has served as the baseline for agriculture, industry, and drinking water. But this figure represents the right under the agreement. Actual supply is subject to upstream developments. The ancient Egyptians understood this intuitively. That is why they worshiped the Nile as a god. The Nile's regular floods carried fertile alluvial soil, making annual agriculture possible. This is not a religious story. It is a rational response. It is entirely natural to treat the system that sustains your very existence as the most important thing in the world. Even today, the vast majority of Egypt's arable land and irrigated agriculture remains concentrated in the Nile Valley and Delta. In essence, nothing has changed from 3,000 years ago. The river controls the state. Now look at the map of Southeast Asia. A river begins in Yunnan Province, China, and flows through Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, and Cambodia before emptying into the sea in Vietnam. Total length, approximately 4,900 kilometers, roughly 3,050 miles. That is the Mekong River. This river is a lifeline spanning 6 nations. Roughly 70 million people live within its basin, with large numbers depending heavily on the river for food, livelihoods, and water. You are probably thinking this right now. Surely modern economies have diversified beyond agriculture. Thailand and Vietnam have indeed diversified their economies. But look at Cambodia and Laos, and the reality is different. Over 20% of both countries, GDP still depends on the Mekong's agriculture and fisheries. The river continues to define the backbone of their economies. And its role as a protein source is even more critical. The Mekong hosts one of the world's largest inland fisheries. Its waters supply roughly 70% of the protein consumed by people across the basin, running into the millions of tons annually. Furthermore, the lower Mekong Basin, from the Cambodian plains to Vietnam's Mekong Delta, is one of the region's premier rice-producing zones. It functions as the breadbasket sustaining national food security and exports. Food, water, economy. Without the Mekong, these nations could not exist in their current form. Look at Europe's economic map, and you notice something striking. The most industrialized regions are aligned along a single line. That line is the Rhine River. It begins in the Swiss Alps, cuts through Germany's Ruhr region, and empties into the North Sea at Rotterdam in the Netherlands. Total length, approximately 230 kilometers, about 765 miles. and this river supports one of Europe's largest inland waterway systems. Roughly 160 million tons of cargo are transported via the Rhine system each year. That accounts for approximately 80% of all European inland waterway freight. Rotterdam continues to function today as Europe's largest container port, the artery connecting inland factories to the Atlantic. Why did the industrial heartland emerge here? The reason is simple. Making steel required iron ore and coal, and moving them required a cheap means of transport. The river was the answer. Water transport tends to offer cost and energy efficiency advantages for bulk freight, a structural advantage that has historically driven the concentration of trade and industry. Germany's Ruhr region sits at the intersection of the Rhine and its tributaries. But here, a serious problem emerges. 2018-2022. Successive droughts dropped the Rhine's water levels, triggering cargo load restrictions and service suspensions. The damage to the German economy ran into the billions of euros. The mightiest transport corridor buckles in the face of climate change. This is not a freak occurrence. A river's greatest strength is simultaneously its greatest vulnerability. Now, let's pause and examine this carefully. Why can the Nile, the Mekong, and the Rhine all sustain such vast human populations? The answer lies in a shared underlying mechanism. First, soil. Rivers flood periodically. Each time, fertile alluvial soil carried from upstream is deposited across the farmland. Ancient farmers had no modern fertilizers, but the river delivered fresh nutrients every year. This is why agriculture was possible even in arid lands. Second, fresh water. Roughly 2.5% of the water on Earth is fresh, and much of that is locked in ice sheets or groundwater. Surface water that humans can readily access is even more limited. Rivers deliver that precious fresh water to where humans need it most. The edges of deserts, arid plains, mountain basins. Without rivers, these regions would have remained uninhabitable. Third, transportation corridors. Water transport tends to offer cost and energy efficiency advantages for bulk freight. This holds true not only in the modern era, it is a fundamental advantage that has never changed throughout history. If surplus crops can be moved across distance, trade emerges. When trade emerges, specialization and division of labor advance. As division of labor advances, professions beyond farming become viable, cities form, and states are born. Rivers give birth to states. But rivers simultaneously generate the most deeply entrenched conflicts between states. The reason is simple. Rivers flow from upstream to downstream. When an upstream nation uses water, the water available to downstream nations decreases. This is the law of physics. Coordinated storage and release operations, rules for drought periods, and demand management can all alter the impact on downstream nations. But without agreement, the flow of a river becomes a question of power. Right now, this contradiction is intensifying across the globe. Look at the Nile. Ethiopia began construction of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, the GERD, in 2011. It has already begun generating power and entered a phase of staged reservoir filling and operation. The central question going forward is not the dam's existence itself, but how to reach agreement on release rules and data sharing, including during drought periods. Without agreement, rapid filling during drought conditions would dramatically increase downstream Egypt's risk. Egypt has called this an existential threat. The same structural dynamic is playing out on the Mekong. China has constructed 11 to 12 large dams on the Lancang, the upper reaches of the Mekong on the main stem. These dams have reduced downstream flow by up to 40%, dealing serious blows to Cambodia's and Vietnam's fisheries and agriculture. Even more severe is the issue of saltwater intrusion. When river flow drops, saltwater from the sea surges upstream. The fertile farmland of the Mekong Delta is being invaded and destroyed by saltwater. Rivers generate the most intractable conflicts between nations. Because water can be shared, but there is only one river. Here's today's summary. First, the universal relationship between rivers and civilization. It is no coincidence that all four great ancient civilizations arose along rivers. The three functions, Alluvial soil deposited by floods, freshwater supply, and low-cost bulk transport generated agricultural surplus, drove urbanization, and made state formation possible. The principle that geography is destiny applies in full to the birth of civilization. Second, modern dependency structures remain unchanged. The vast majority of Egypt's population is concentrated in the Nile Valley and Delta. The Mekong still sustains the food and protein supply of roughly 70 million people, and the Rhine system moves approximately 160 million tons of cargo annually, accounting for roughly 80% of European inland waterway freight. Modernization has not ended dependence on rivers. It has only changed its form. Third, conflicts over water resources and climate risk are intensifying. The GERD has entered staged operation, and agreement on release rules during drought periods will determine the fate of those downstream. The Mekong's large dam complex has cut downstream flow by up to 40%, and saltwater intrusion is destroying farmland. And on the Rhine, every drought halts transportation and costs the German economy billions of euros. So what do you think? Can humanity break its dependence on rivers, or must we find a new way to coexist with them? Technologies and institutions, groundwater, desalination, food trade, offer some capacity to mitigate the impact. But structural dependence persists. When rivers weaken, states shake. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. On this channel, we analyze how geography and water resources drive nations, not through emotion, but through facts, not through opinion, but through mechanism. Subscribe and join us next time as we dig deeper into the structures that shape our world. Turn on notifications, and every new analysis will take your understanding of the world one level higher. Until next time.